We are coming to you from the city beautiful Chicago, Illinois, where tonight WGN Sports on the U present White Sox baseball. It's Paul Canerco, Alex Rios, Adam Dunn and the Sox as they get set to butt heads with Eric Wedge's Seattle Mariners. Hi, everybody, and welcome. With Steve Stone, I'm Ken Harrelson. As we get set to bring you the first of this three-game weekend series. As you know, the Sox coming off the three-game series with Kansas City where we won 2 games out of 3. So tonight, Sox taking on a team that they have had some good success against.
24-4 over the last 3 years, and last year the Sox beat the Mariners 8-1, and you look at the reason why. 281 batting average, many more home runs than the Mariners. The runs batted in, well, you'd expect them to be high. They are, and the ERA for the Sox, very good at 281.
Well, Michael Morris, this team has 5 home runs. Michael Morris has 4 of them.
He came over from Washington. Michael Morris is really a hitting machine, hitting 375. He keeps hitting the ball out of the ballpark. He's driven in 6 runs. And this is a guy they needed in the middle of their lineup. They brought in the fences this year, 17 feet in left center field, playing right into the hands of Michael Morris, a right-hand power hitter. They also have a few other guys in their lineup we'll talk about later, but it's a different-looking lineup than produced the lowest run outage in the American League last year.
All right, sit back, relax, and strap it down because White Sox baseball is coming your way. Chicago White Sox baseball is brought to you by Miller Lite. It's not just a good time, it's Miller time. By Honda. Visit your local Honda dealer or go to shophonda.com for current offers. By AT&T. Find out what's possible with products and services from AT&T. Rethink possible. And by Ford, proud sponsor of your Chicago White Sox. Check out America's freshest lineup of fuel-efficient vehicles at your local Ford store or at localfordstores.com.
We now realize that to move forward, we cannot merely take, we must give. The energy, the devotion, and the faith that we bring together will burn brighter than if done alone. Life is tough. That's not a secret. We stumble, we fall, we swing, we miss. It's true. But every time we get knocked down, we get back up. And in the end, it's not how many times we fall, but how fast we get up that matters. One more time than before. That is success.
The White Sox have won the 1983 American League Western Division title.
Once we understand that there is no obstacle on this planet that can stop us, we will have success. There are those who will say that we can't do it. We can't claim it. We can't win it. Don't listen. We will break out of the impossibility and make a single choice to push forward. That is the single greatest force that controls our destiny, the power of choice. We can control the decisions we make. We will prove it. We will earn it. We will run faster, throw harder, hit further. We will do it better. We will be stronger. We will dream bigger. We have decided where we want to be, where we will be. We will decide when this will end. In the end, there will be a winner. There's no question about that. And we will decide who will be on top. We will make an impact.
Chicago White Sox baseball in high definition is brought to you by Xfinity, your home for the most live sports. Tonight's game is available in Spanish on your SAP audio setting, provided by 97.5 FM. ESPN Deportes, Chicago's first and only FM Spanish-language sports radio station. It's a very chilly night at the ballpark, 37 degrees, and a lot of folks, understandably, are going to watch this one on television. They're not going to be at the ball yard tonight. It's going to get even chillier than this, and a good night for the pitchers as you look at Jose Quintana, looking for win number 1, and this is his first start. On the other side of the field, Blake Bevan, big right-hander. He's got a good sinker. He's working on that, and he could use it in this ballpark. A ballpark, even when it's this cold, the ball will shoot out of. So Seattle coming off a 4-game series with Oakland, where they split the series 2-2 on the road. Robin Ventura's ball club, 2-1 against Kansas City, who clobbered Philadelphia today. Let's take a look at how Eric Wedge is going to line up his Mariners for this one. Franklin Gutierrez in center field, and it's Michael Saunders in right. Kendrys Morales, you might remember him from the Angels. He's at first. Michael Morris, he's the DH. Jesus Montero behind the plate. Kyle Seager at third. Jason Bay in left field. Dustin Ackley at second. And Brendan Ryan, fine defensive shortstop, hitting 9th. It's the White Sox Toyota defense. And now they'll line up left to right. Viciedo, Diaz, and Rios in the outfield. Jeff Keppinger, Lexi Ramirez, Gordon Beckham, and Paul Konerko in the infield. Tyler Flowers, who's been red hot with the bat, gets a nod behind the plate again. And on the hill, Jose Quintana. 6-6 last year, a fine ERA for a rookie of 3.76. He made 25 appearances, 22 starts. And kind of hit the wall a little later in the season. He had never been there before, but he will learn a lot because of what he went through last year in a pennant race. Eric Wedge in his 3rd season with the Mariners. They've got a fairly deep farm system, and they're looking for some help as far as run scoring is concerned. That's one of the reasons why they brought in Morse. They traded for Kendry Morales. And they also have Jason Bay. Trying to do something to shore up an offense that last year was woefully short in the American League. They throw the ball around the infield. We're ready to play baseball. I'm ready to turn it over to my play-by-play partner, Ken Harrelson.
All right, Stone Pony, thank you very much. And once again, good evening, everyone, and welcome to White Sox baseball right here with WGN Sports on the U. So happy you could join us for the first of this 3-game set. Franklin Gutierrez, the center fielder, will lead it off. 30-year-old outfielder. Comes in hitting at .333 on the young season with a homer, and he's driven in 3. Boy, he has really been beset with a lot of injuries the last few years. And the first pitch of the ball game. Taken for a strike. Mariners come in hitting at 208 through the first 4 with a 3.97 ERA. Last year, Gutierrez in limited action hit 260, 4 homers, and drove in 17.
Gutierrez, when healthy, is one of the best center fielders around. And not only has he been injured, he's been sick some of the time.
Couldn't get it upstairs. And here at the ballpark, 330 down the left field line, 335 down the right field line, 375 in the gaps, and 400 straightaway center. That's high and deep into right field in the corner. Alex is there, and that ball is gone. High fly ball. Steve told you, even though it is cold, 35 degrees as we speak, that ball in this park will still get out of here.
Wasn't a bad pitch, just a little higher than Tyler Flowers wanted it. And it kept on drifting. Gives you a pretty good idea which way the wind is blowing as you take a look at the flags, and it's out toward the right field corner. See the ball up. Quintana didn't want it there, and I think Rios thought he had this ball until the very last instant. Just drifted out of the park.
I think maybe one of the most surprised guys in the ballpark was Gutierrez.
Well, he knew that he got it off the end of the bat, and yet it just kept on going.
So here's Michael Saunders, 2 for 12 on the young season. Last year he hit 247, but he hit 19 homers in that big ballpark and drove in 57.
Saunders got a break last year. In spring training, he was battling for a job just to stay with the team. Then Gutierrez got hurt. Saunders took over in center field. Eric Wedge liked him a lot, and now he's a mainstay in the outfield.
He's just 26. He's got a chance to be a good player. Get over there. Perfect feed by Paulie.
The umpires for the game tonight: behind the plate, Vic Carapazza at first base, Jeff Nelson, Kerwin Danley handling the duties at second, and Lance Barksdale is at third. This being the first night game, Hawk, any adjustments hitters have to make?
No, a lot of them love it.
Like it better than, especially those 3 o'clock games.
Yeah, exactly. Those no shadows tonight. As here's the switch hitting first baseman, Kendry Morales. 1 for 12. But make no mistake about it, he was the victim of a very freak accident. Hit a home run, came around, jumped on home plate, and he did. He tore his ankle up. 2011. As that's out number 2. But he's got a chance to be a good one.
I know the Angels really liked him.
The Mariners are going to like him as well.
You talk about freak accidents. That's one of the worst. Celebrating a home run, that high jump he took at the plate just shattered the ankle.
Yeah. Yeah, that was in 2011. The year before that, all he did was, well, 2 years before, in 09, hit 34 homers, drove in 108. Here's Morse, 375, 4 homers. He's driven in 6. We had this guy. He signed as a shortstop, and he's 6'5", and he was 6'5" then.
He was a good hitter with Washington. It's just that they ran out of room in the outfield with Bryce Harper taking over every day. And they don't have a DH. So Seattle got him relatively cheaply. Traded John Jaso in a 3-way trade with Morris coming to Seattle. turned out to be a great trade for him.
He's got a golf grip. The overlap. Not many guys. I've seen a couple of guys use that or employ that grip. He's the first one in quite some time. See that little finger? On his top hand. Good pitch, didn't get it.
What is that grip supposed to do for him?
Well, it just feels comfortable for him. Well, you know, obviously, or he wouldn't be doing it. And sometimes it lets the left hand work a little better. Pops him up. So after the opposite field, a high fly ball has just drifted out of here by Gutierrez. 1-2-3 for Quintana. After half inning of play, as the Mariners won, and the good guys coming to bat.
Places. Alejandro Diaz leading off, then Jeff Keppinger hitting second with Alex Rios, Adam Dunn, Paul Konerko, Diane Viciedo in left, Alexei Ramirez and Tyler Flowers, along with Gordon Beckham, coming off a 4-for-4 game. The defense behind Bevan. Bay, Gutierrez, and Saunders in the outfield. Seager, Ryan, Ackley, and Morales in the infield. Jesus Montero behind the plate, and Blake Bevan on the hill. He's a tall right-hander. Last year, 11-11. ERA, respectable, but for that ballpark, could have been a little better. 26 starts. He's got a sinker, got a good overhand curveball, and he tries to mix in a change. Likens himself a little bit to the departed Doug Fister, although the sinker isn't quite as good.
And before we show you our picks to click, you at home select yours, as here is Alejandro. Takes first pitch strike from the 6'7" right-hander. 6'7", 253 pounds, just 24 years old. That's a big young man. Oh, and 2 the count. Alejandro 1 for 12 in the first 3 games.
Bevan was originally a first-round draft pick of the Texas Rangers. Actually went over to Seattle in the deal that sent Cliff Lee from Seattle to Texas.
Breaking ball down and in.
Control is the key for Bevan. Last year, averaged 1.42 walks per 9 innings. That was second in the American League. Pretty impressive for a youngster.
Well, he's got a nice resume. That pitch popped up. Get out of here. It won't. Coming back. 1 out. Bevan, 2-time Texas High School Player of the Year, Gatorade Player of the Year.
You can tell by those walks per innings pitched that this guy knows how to spot all of his pitches, and he's going to have to because the fastball is a little short.
So here's Keppinger. Like Alejandro, Keppinger 1 for 12 on the season. Breaking ball, no. 32 degrees now as we speak.
Nice.
Yeah, what hurts?
Good hitting weather.
Well, in years past, there would have been a few tubes of Capsulin used in this ball game.
I remember that.
That was a balm, a topical that you rubbed on your arm to. Yeah, believe me, you would not feel the 32 degrees. Seager, 2 down. So with 2 out, let's check out our picks to click tonight. Jim Angio, our director and the crew, well, he went with Tyler Flowers. Steve's going with Diaza. And all the good folks down at Knollwood, in Granger, Indiana, and I. Nick, Tony, Tom. We're going to go with Konerko.
Last pitch, Bevan just sawed off the bat of Keppinger, and the best thing to do with this infield is get him to hit it to the left side, because a combination of Seager and Ryan are almost as good as it gets defensively.
First pitch strike to Rios. Right at the bottom of the zone. Alex now, on the other hand, 5 for 11 in the first 3 games. And he has faced Bevan 5 times and has a couple of hits. That ball hit hard, stay fair. It won't.
Very much of a looping breaking ball that he hung on the outer portion of the plate. Alex just couldn't wait back long enough. See where Montero wants it? That ball stays right in the middle of the plate. He's lucky to get away with it.
The 0-2. Chopped in the hole. Off the glove of Seager.
That should go as a base hit.
Yep.
They're giving him E5. It's pretty tough air.
Yeah.
Especially on
on
that short top with the top spin.
Well, that's a base hit. Regardless, that's a base hit.
We'll leave that one blank and see what happens.
Yeah, I am too. Here is Adam. The arm, Frisky, the official score tonight.
Yeah, the arm that they're going to run on in the outfield is Jason Bay in left. Now Montero has worked on his footwork behind the plate. It has gotten a whole lot better than last year. He still has a long, slow delivery. He's got a strong arm. They're trying to work on his defense. They originally slated him to be a designated hitter, but now it'll be a rotating designated hitter as far as Seattle's concerned.
There he goes. Faith. 2 for 2 in stolen bases.
Well, you saw the long, slow arm swing. Alex gets a good jump. It's a good throw. It just took too long to get there. And Rios in. Watch the arm of Montero. Takes a while to cock it. And by that time, Rios is in.
Oh. Got a good one to hit right there and underneath it.
Probably just a little higher than Adam would have liked, but at 89.
That's right.
You can like a lot of pitches at 89.
Yeah, he can get that one at 89. He was all over it, just underneath it. .94-95. He would not have fouled it off. Gap out there in right center. 1-0 Seattle if you're just tuning in. Leadoff homer by Franklin Gutierrez. Just a high fly ball right down the right field line from the right-handed hitter. Ball slashed into the in and out of the mezzanine seats.
That was a straight change. First one that Bevan has thrown, so it gives our hitters a different look. Only that one stayed up. And not that much of a disparity between that straight change and his fastball. About 6-7 miles an hour. That usually is not enough.
That's high and to left field. Jason Bay makes the catch. That'll retire the side. After one, it is 1-0 Mariners. Top of the second inning, Montero, Seager, and Bay to face Jose Quintana. That's into center field. One pitch and one out. And a reminder, 2013 flexible plans include the White Sox Pick 7 and Pick 14 plans, so you can select the games you want, including great matchups and a Crosstown Classic Series. So Pick 14 plans start at $119 per seat. Pick 7 plans start at $55 a seat. So call 312-674-1000 or visit whitesox.com. Kyle Seager, 25-year-old third baseman. Last year at 259, 20 homers, and drove in 86. And he got Quintana for one of those homers. And it was a long one.
He didn't hit all that well against the left-handers, but he's learning how to do it a bit better. And he's one of their top young players. This is a guy last year, out of 86 runs driven in, 44 were driven in with 2 outs. That's a big number for anybody, but especially a very young hitter.
They have some good prospects over here.
They do.
Two down.
Well, Jack Zarinsek, who was always known as a good evaluator of talent, as a scouting director of the Milwaukee Brewers, came over, took over the general manager job, and has set about to rebuilding the organization through drafts in the minor leagues. He's done that. Now he's got to prove that he can put together a team that can win in the major leagues. But so far, it's been rough going at the major league level for this organization.
Well, it's very hard to put together an organization through the draft picks, because that means that you got to lose so you can get some high ones.
Either that or make some very good picks down in the draft, which is, you know, if you've got good scouts, you can get it done. We see a lot of guys 4th, 5th, 6th rounds that turn into be pretty good players.
Hey, we see some good pitchers that are in the 10th and 15th rounds. I love those guys from 10th, 15th rounds. That, to me, when they get to the big leagues and they're successful, they have been competing their whole lives because they didn't have that good of stuff.
Usually, I mean, to scout a guy with great stuff in high school or junior college or college, that's pretty easy to do. You look at the radar gun, you watch the movement of the ball, he's going to be a high draft choice. But the art of scouting is projection, projecting these guys that will get better or know how to pitch, great pitching acumen. And that comes a little later in the draft.
2-2 pitch. Jason Bay, 34-year-old veteran. He has 211 home runs in his career. Last year with the Mets at 165, 8 homers and knocked in 20.
You know, he's one of the highest paid outfielders that the Mets have responsibility for this year. And you're not going to guess the other one. But the Sox used to have him.
He gone. 1-2-3 inning for Quintana, and it's 1-0 Seattle. This year, Bull's Barbecue being one of them, named and created by longtime fan favorite
and member of the 1983 winning ugly White Sox, Greg Luzinski. This sweet barbecued pork certainly will be offered at 2 barbecue locations, sections 151, 531 in the ballpark. There's a good look at it.
Bolzer looks great, too. Saw him at Sox Fest. Svelte.
Surprisingly.
Yeah. Well, you were talking about the 2 highest paid outfielders the Mets had. You said Jason Bay, and that I would never guess the other one. Who is it?
Well, it's a former White Sox player, here briefly, a couple of times, Bobby Bonilla.
I would have never guessed that in 1,000 years.
Retired a long time. I think he retired in the
20
Kennedy
years ago.
administration. Yeah. They are still paying
That
Bobby
is
Bonilla.
Unbelievable. Boy, there's some trivia for you right there.
Indeed.
Here's Paulie with an 0-1 count. Paulie 1 for 12 on the season. No, I would have never got that. Never. Got some finals around baseball. Tigers beat the Yankees 8-3 at Comerica. Pfister over Nova. Well, Carapazza has got a high strike zone and a low strike zone so far in this game.
Well, that one, if it was a strike, it was the top of the upper part of the zone. Paulie certainly didn't like it, but he's in a 1-2 hole.
And some other action. Texas beat the Angels 3-2 down in Arlington. Texas 3-1 off to a good start. Angels 1-3. AJ had a big RBI triple, a couple of those, 3 for 4 in that game.
He's tied for the league lead in triples. That probably won't hold for a while, but it was a big one today. Drove in a big run.
Oh, yeah. That's a foul ball. Giants shut out the Cardinals 1-0 at AT&T. Zito over Westbrook. Rockies beat the Padres 5-2 in Denver. Baltimore almost doubled up Minnesota. They beat them 9-5 at Oriole Park. Kansas City jumped all over the Phillies. They beat them 13-4 with 19 hits. Cy Chen over Kendrick.
He just keeps rolling right along. Kansas City pounded up 19 hits today. Think they were happy to get out of town.
High into right field. Saunders, 1 out. Yeah, they were happy to get out. Especially with that win yesterday. But Gavin Floyd really has some good stuff. Pitched well. Beckham went 4 for 4. Rios a couple of hits. We got beat 3-1. Guthrie again. Spinning his magic over our hitters. Yes, there's a breaking ball strike to Tank, who is 2 for 11 with a homer. Cues that one right off the end of the bat. Top of the 5th in Cincinnati, 6-0 Reds over Washington. The Nationals 3-0 coming in. Cincinnati 2-1. Tampa Bay shutting out Cleveland 4-0. Bottom of the 5th in St. Pete.
Washington, the only undefeated team in baseball coming into action today. Gives you an idea about parity.
That's what Mr. Selig has been striving for. And he put them all in a position to have some parity because they're all making money.
They are that.
That's the only way you can have parity. The 1-2. He just flipped him a roller up there and got away with it. 2 down. That'll bring up Alexei. Alexei 3 for 10 with a homer on the season.
Ramirez has started out pretty well when you consider some of his other April starts.
Takes the bunt, takes the strike. Alexei 1 for 6 off Blake Bevan.
This becomes a pretty big game because we're facing Felix Hernandez tomorrow afternoon in a 12 o'clock game. And Felix is pretty tough.
Felix is just about as good as it gets from that side of the ball.
He'll be facing Dylan Axelrod.
The 0-2.
I would think the second time through the order, if Bevan continues to roll as many breaking balls as he's done the first time through, he will pay the price.
Yeah, he's gotten away with a few already. That ball hit high and deep, but they got a man there, Franklin Gutierrez, and that's a 1-2-3 inning for Bevan. One nothing Seattle here in the top of the third inning. Destin Ackley 1 for 12 on the start. Takes ball 1. Last year Dustin hit .226, very disappointing for him. 12 homers and knocked in 50.
He's trying a new batting style. Dave Hansen is a new hitting coach. Dave, very good player, long time player and coach.
Good pinch hitter.
He was a great pinch hitter.
Two and one.
Ackley has some problems catching up with a good fastball. He can lay that bat on his shoulder, but then he keeps it straight up. And that hasn't allowed him to get through the zone as quickly as they would like to see him do it.
And the count 2-2. He was definitely highly touted.
Second pick in the draft.
University of North Carolina.
Yeah, second pick in the draft.
Signed a 5-year deal 15 minutes before the signing deadline for $7.5 million. One out. That'll bring up Brendan Ryan, 31-year-old shortstop. He's a good shortstop. Last year hit 194, 3 homers, and knocked in 31. And of course was the final out of the perfect game.
He can play short, and he will bunt the ball. So Jeff Keppinger in at the cut of the grass at third.
Takes a strike.
Fake that bunt that time.
Guys like him, if they don't fake a bunt at least one pitch in every at bat, they're shortchanging themselves.
Keppinger is playing well off the line, but he's going to have to be ready to move to his right, because Quintana likes to throw the ball and cut it inside to the right-hand hitters.
Off the glove, slowed up. Alexei can't quite get in. Good effort.
Unfortunately, Jose slowed it up too much.
Alexei made it closer than I thought it was going to be.
Big effort. And Jeff Nelson said that he got there.
So here is Gutierrez. And here's what he did leading off the ball game.
Very surprising home run that just got up in the jet stream that way and drifted out of the park.
Count evens at 1.
Right now, not too much, but in left center field, you get some sort of an idea that it is blowing a little bit more insistent upstairs.
There's a strike. Well, as you look at the flags, in 2010, gastroenterological issues were undiagnosed, and he lost weight, showed signs of weakness, and missed games with stomach ailments. Then he had a severe oblique strain. Boy, he's just torn pectoral last year, missing 65 games. Suffered a concussion. As he goes down, 2 out.
That time he suffered from what Quintana's been trying to do more this year than last, and that is when you get ahead of the hitters, throw that fastball up and out of the zone. See Gutierrez almost try to go up on his tiptoes, but you're not going to catch up to it up there.
Here's Saunders. Grounded out 3-1. Big's first pitch strike. Crisp, but misses. Saunders, as I mentioned, 19 homers last year.
He's becoming a very solid player for them, and he's proven that he can play every one of the outfield positions.
Could not pull the trigger. So with 2 out, 1-2 the count. See what Wedge wants to do with Ryan at first base. That's a decent lead. There he goes, though.
Tough ball to handle for Tyler Flowers. It was low and away. The throw was up. Ryan was in.
Well, you got to anticipate 0-2, 1-2, 2 out.
Got to bail out your hitter.
Yep. And the 2-2. Nice block by Tyler. That's the second stolen base for Ryan. Payoff pitch. Not even close. So the first walk of the ball game, that'll bring up Morales. Kendry's popped up to back him. But he is dangerous.
Well, they brought him in. He cost him Jason Vargas. Pretty good left-hand pitcher. Brought in Morales. Brought in Robert Andino, Jason Bay, Michael Morse, and Kelly Shopik, along with Raul Ibanez. Trying to improve that offense.
Takes ball 1.
They took down the high scoreboard in left field, making the fence 8 feet all the way around. Brought in left field 7 feet. Left center 17 feet. Much more hitter friendly these days at Safeco.
Oh, he does a lot of good things up there at the plate.
That fastball up on the inner portion, maybe a little higher than he would have wanted it.
He clears very quick hips.
Pretty strong hitter from both sides of the plate.
Yeah, he's going to help this ball club. No doubt about it.
That was a good cutter, especially when you put in a hitter's mind that you might throw a fastball on the inner portion. That ball cut well inside off the plate, but Morales had already committed.
Morales out of Cuba. In fact, he was jailed twice for attempting to flee Cuba, 2003, and subsequently dropped from the national team for suspicion of contacting an agent. He arrived in the Florida Keys on his 12th attempt in 2004.
That's a persistent man.
Good pitch. In on him.
Pitch number 48 on the way, which is not an overwhelming total, but he's not through the third yet.
He gone. Gas. And that'll retire the side. We'll go to the bottom of the third. It is 1-0. Bad Guys. Ball blog at WGNTV.com, sponsored by Jeff Vukovich. Jeff Vukovich, your local nationwide insurance agent serving the area for 34 years. So to join the nation, visit JeffVuk.com. Nationwide is on your side.
I see Jeff in Arizona, huge baseball fan, and he's been in the insurance business a long time.
Tyler Flowers, Gordon Beckham, and Alejandro Diaza. Pretty good breaking ball. Got a real good location. Another one. And the count 0-2.
Bevan, as is his custom, staying ahead of most of the hitters. And unlike the previous two innings, those two breaking balls didn't hang. Here comes another.
And then gasses him upstairs. One down.
We're going to see the Toronto Blue Jays at the end of the first road trip of the year. And Jose Bautista said something, Hawk, interested your feelings on it. He said, sometimes I have more trouble than most players dealing with my production being affected by someone else's mediocrity. Meaning
Ouch.
He has received some bad calls. How do you think that will be received?
Well, you know my motto. I don't say anything about the umpires.
Yes, I know your motto, but I'm going to take you back to your playing
I wouldn't
days.
be saying that if I were playing.
If you were still hitting?
No way. You know, but again, it was a different culture, as you're well aware of. I'm sure there were some umpires that you didn't particularly care for, but and I'm sure there were more that you got along very well with.
I tried to make friends with them because, you know, they, as a pitcher, obviously, they're going to call a lot of pitches for you, and they've got your game in their hands.
That's out of play. Gordon 4 for 4 yesterday, but there was a different relationship between. It wasn't adversarial. Today it's pretty much adversarial with, I would say, more than half the players. And you know, when we used to go out after a ball game on the road or something, and the umpires would be in the same restaurant, we'd send them over a bottle of wine or a drink or whatever it was.
Well, in those days, and when I came into the league also, you had National and American League umps, so you saw them a lot.
Yeah. A little two-hopper. And umpires back in those days, the majority of them had a shorter memory. I think they have a longer memory today.
We'll see how it works out.
Well, he's one of those players, tremendously talented. He's got one of the livest bats you'll ever see. As evidenced, we saw it in Toronto when he almost handcuffed Alex Rios with a single in the center field.
And he's just gotten better and better as a hitter.
Sure, but he also has that presence that's upsetting to a lot of people. There's a bunt. That's a pretty good bunt. And they get him. Beautiful play right there by Seager. Mercy. And we're into the fourth. Michael Morris leading off here in the top of the fourth inning. Line shot, left field, tanks.
That ball was hit awfully hard, and for a moment looked like it was going to accelerate over Vicieto's head. Unfortunately, it had some topspin on it, and he was able to run it down. Michael Morris is very strong, and he hits this one pretty hard. Vicieto able to corral it.
Here's Montero. He lined out hard to Alejandro. We mentioned Baltimore beat Minnesota today 9-5. Chris Davis had another home run. He's got 4, and he had 5 more RBIs.
Absolutely unbelievable, because he had at least 3 in his first 3 games.
He's got 16 RBIs now. 16.
Pretty amazing. Especially when you consider he was 7 for 11 in the 3 games.
Well, we talked about him last year and the year before, that with that short swing of his, if he ever got the right approach, he was going to be a handful, and he sure has become that. He's got one of the shortest, most powerful left-handed swings you ever want to see. That's a can of corn.
Chris Davis was given an opportunity by Buck Showalter because obviously he had a lot of power, but he came over, struck out a lot. There's only been 3 players to homer in the first 4 games of the season. One back in '71, that was Willie Mays, who was pretty good. '98 was Mark McGwire. 2011, Nelson Cruz. And Davis is hitting everything in sight. He's got 16 runs batted in.
Watch out. That's one of the quickest starts RBI-wise I've ever seen that I can remember. And that's just in 4 ball games. Orioles are 3-1. 16 RBIs, 4 games, average of 4. Wow.
Remarkable. And they did lose Brian Roberts for up to a month with a ruptured tendon in his knee. Roberts had all kinds of problems with concussions, problems staying healthy. He had a good spring, was healthy. Stolen base attempt and ruptured a tendon.
And Robert Andino, who did such a good job filling in for him, is no longer with him. He's with Seattle.
Andino was a pretty good player in a backup role.
Better believe he did a heck of a job for him. Seager grounded out to Beckham.
Chris Davis has become an unbelievable story because I don't know how far back the records go, but first player since 1916 to have at least 3 runs batted in the first 3 games of the season. Now it's at least 3 in the first 4 games of the season, and I don't know if they go back that far.
That's not going to be playable.
We saw him with Texas. We both remember how hard and how far he could hit the baseball. The only question was, could he hit it often enough? I guess that's been answered.
Well, he's had to do one of 2 things in order to. His swing is, as I mentioned, is so short and quick, but he cannot lay off the letter high fastball. Evidently, he's laying it off, or they're just making an awful lot of bad pitches on him.
Couldn't be that many bad ones.
And there's the second walk issued by Quintana. And a reminder, you can stop by Bacardi at the Park right here at US Cellular Field at the Gate 5 Plaza. Bacardi at the Park offers a full menu from Gibson's Restaurant Group and opens 4 hours prior to all home games. Bacardi at the Park. Grab your friends and visit them. Jason Bay struck out looking.
Good slow curveball that gives the Seattle hitters a different look.
Up high, well, Bay is high in home runs with Boston, was 36 back in '09. Had 119 RBIs. He had 35 for Pittsburgh in '06.
That's a tough ballpark for a right-hand hitter to hit home runs.
They got him picked off. Beckham now will put it on him, and that'll retire the side. Well, pick off, but it's still 1-0 Mariners. This weekend marks the introduction, so to speak, of a very, very good ball club we had in '83.
Had a great team, and we're going to commemorate it a lot of different ways. One of the ways is a giveaway, and it's not a sock puppet. It is a bomber hat. Very warm, could come in really handy tonight, but I can't fit it over the headphones, so there it is.
And, of course, we're going to be wearing that '83 uniform every Sunday throughout the season, honoring that outstanding '83 ball club. They won 99 games, won a division by 20, and unfortunately, Tito Landrum, a home run. And Baltimore goes on to win a World Series. And, of course, at the Sports Depot, all that '83 merchandise is right there, and they tell us it is moving very well. Keppinger. Keppinger grounded his counterpart, Kyle Seager. 2-1 to count. Little soft comebacker. One out, and that'll bring up Alex Rios. Alex hit a ball in the hole. It should have been judged a base hit. It was ruled an error, which was a bad call.
And thus, the no-hitter still intact.
Well, Don Fiske was the official score tonight. It's pretty obvious he never played third base.
It was a tough play because of the overspin, the fact that Seager was backing up and going to his left. And also then Seager made a great play on the bunt by Diaza to end the third.
First pitch strike. That ball hit hard, but it's got a nosedive. Now there's a good example. That ball was hit a lot harder than the home run by Gutierrez.
Different time.
Different time. It's not who you play, it's when you play them.
Well, for whatever reason, that one was just slapped down by the wind, and early, the wind just carried one out.
So here's Adam.
Seattle has the shift on. Exactly playing on the outfield grass, although not quite as deep as some of the second basemen we've seen. Morales deep and over toward the line at first. In the meantime, Bevan keeps rolling right along.
Well, you can cancel a post-game show.
The big man gets one of those hanging breaking balls, and we speculated the second time through he's not going to get away with quite as many as he did the first time through the order. So Adam just waits back, lets this one come to him, and drives it into right center field for the first hit of the night.
And here's Paulie. Paulie went out to right field. .33 degrees as we speak. And there he goes.
How about that? He completely neglected Adam Dunn. And early in his career, Adam stole some bags. He had decent speed, and now he figures, look, they're not looking at me. Just take off, and wisely, Montero doesn't even bother throwing. This one might come back to haunt him.
Now time is called.
Well, Bevan didn't know time was called because when he should have been looking at Dunn, he wasn't. And when it really didn't matter because of where the infielders were, he was looking at him when Montero was running out towards him. Montero would have been a surprised guy had he thrown the baseball.
Come on, Paulie, pick him up. Outfield, straight up, spread out. Count evens at 1. Paulie now 4 for 6 lifetime off Bevan with a homer. Ball hit into the gap. It's yes. Well, here comes Adam, and that stolen base, as Steve mentioned, jumps up and bites him, and this game is tied at 1.
This game has some wonderful little subtleties, and one of them is it's won and lost, giving or taking 90 feet at a time. And the fact that Adam Dunn was heads up enough to take off allowed Paulie, with yet another hanging breaking ball, to drive in his first run of the year, tie this one at 1. And so the stolen base turns out to be big.
Here's Tank. Breaking ball, low and away. Tank went out to left field.
Right now, Paul Konerko moves by Frank Thomas into third place all by himself in the hit leaders of our Sox.
That's the scouting report on Tank.
Just keep throwing him slow stuff, and then when you do go get him with a fastball, keep the ball up out of the strike zone and on the inner portion unless he starts laying off it.
There's another hanger, got away with it. They get the force, but big 2-out RBI single by Konerko. Scores Dunn, who's singled and stole second, and this game is tied. First pitch misses to Jason Bay. They was at the plate when they picked off Kyle Seager at first base. That ball ripped. So the leadoff double. He put a little top hand on that one.
Quintana tries to get that fastball in. Bay able to get his hands in so he can get the head of the bat out and kept it fair. This one didn't hook very much. That represents a go-ahead run out at second base.
So Ackley's got a job to do. He grounded out to Alexei. Outfield bunched just a bit, slightly to the left. Now too much time. Well, Cooperstown is full of guys with funny stances. Doesn't make any difference. You just got to find something that works for you.
Well, Ackley, who came in with all kinds of promises, still trying to find that comfortable position.
Well, I think he'll find out most of the time. I speak from experience. Most of the time, it's not the stance, it's the approach. It's not the mechanics. It's 6 inches. Right between the ears. Now, that's just a terrible. When you got a man at second base.
And you're not trying to hook the ball to the right side?
That's just not a good at bat.
Not to this point. And if you're Quintana, you're trying to stay away, trying to strike him out with something out of the zone, preferably.
Well, unless Eric Wedge, the manager, that he's struggling so much, Eric told him, hey, just swing the bat. Which that happens a lot of times. That'll get the job done. Get over there. Drops the ball. Tried to catch it barehanded.
I think he just took his eye off the baseball, trying to locate the bag. And for a left-hander, unless he gets over there quickly, you're going to have all your concentration first on catching the baseball, because if you don't do that, the rest is not relevant. Well, he looks at third for a second, but flips it. Just missed it.
So a lot of trouble brewing here in the top of the 5th inning.
It's going to go as a sacrifice, E1. No sacrifice, excuse me, just E1.
Brendan Ryan had an infield single and a stolen base.
Keppinger very close at third. They'll go for the double play if it's hit in the middle.
Broken bat over the head of the drawn-in Keppinger, and it's a 2-1 lead. Still nobody out.
This cutter breaks the bat, but Ryan able to just drop it over Keppinger's head. And Quintana's still in some problems.
Gutierrez has homered and struck out. Thirty-year-old outfielder. 1-0 the count. Checking down with Jeff Datz, coach at third. Mike Brumley, the coach over at first.
Jeff Datz has been with Eric Wedge a long time, from back in his Cleveland days.
Well, Eric Wedge is a good manager. When he was at Cleveland, they just didn't give him a whole bunch.
At first he had a pretty decent team, and then the farm system just dried up, so he paid the price for some bad drafts, some lack of development of players,
some bad trades,
and some trades that probably they would like to rethink.
Two balls and a strike. Outfield spread out, now straight up. Bit of a gap out there in left center. All right. Like to see that.
I think it's a good play if Paulie can get to the bag just a touch quicker.
I like to see it even if it doesn't work.
Just to shorten up that secondary lead.
Just to get them thinking. Don't let them freewheel it. Count evens at 2. There for years and years and years, the team that worked out the best was Baltimore Orioles.
Tirelessly in spring training on what they call the little half field that was right next to the main field. The facilities weren't all that good, but Earl used to work tirelessly at those plays.
And that's a fair ball. Here comes one. Now they're going to wave him around. Here comes 2. And it's 4-1. So that big error has really caused a lot of problems.
Don Cooper is coming out as Gutierrez has driven in his 5th and 6th run of the spring. I'm not sure if they'd have had a shot at Ryan at the plate, but you're not going to have a shot if you don't hit the cutoff man. So this has been a fairly sloppy defensive inning.
Well, actually, our defense, which is our strong point, has not been good.
Nope.
This is the 4th game. But it will get a lot better. As here's Michael Saunders. He has grounded out 3-1 and walked. And there's another bullet for a double. And it's a 5-1 ball game.
That might be 3.
It's going to be. Still nobody out.
Second run batted in. as Saunders gets one right down the middle and drives it by Paulie. No chance on this one.
Here's Morales. He's popped a second and struck out.
This has happened pretty quickly, and the bullpen just now starting to get up.
It is 6-1.
We're picking on the first ball fastball. And the pattern that Quintana has fallen into to the right-hand hitters is staying inside with just about everything. So Matt Lindstrom throwing in the pen. Tyler going out there to spend some time to allow Lindstrom to get some pitches.
And here's Morris. Popped up to center and then lined out hard to left. Slightly open stance. And that's a base hit into right field. Six hits this inning. 2 doubles, a triple, and 3 singles.
And 3 straight hits on the first pitch.
Well, that's part of that Dave Hansen mentality, being a pinch hitter.
Let's go up and get him.
Go up and swing.
That is going to be it for Quintana, who ran into a buzzsaw here in the 5th inning. Given up 6 hits, 5 runs so far. So Matt Lindstrom will come into the game. We'll step out and be back after these messages. For a better banking experience for everyone. Fifth Third Bank, the curious bank. Member FDIC. So Matt Lindstrom comes in the game. That's what he did on Wednesday against the Royals, pitching 2/3 of an inning. Throwing the ball very well. It was a big effort for the bullpen that Wednesday. And the first man he's going to look at is Jesus Montero as he tries to turn off the floodgates.
Got to get an out.
Montero doesn't run well, so a ground ball would turn into 2.
Montero has lined to center, and he has gone out to right. 6, 8, and 1 for their guys. 1, 2, and a big one for our guys. .33 degrees here at the ball yard. And the count 2-0. Well, if you're just tuning in, we've beaten these guys 11 out of the last 12. In the last 3 years, 24 of 28.
It's a different ball club. They've got a little more thunder than they've had in years past.
Yeah, they've got a lot more thunder than they have. It's not quite some time. You add Morris and Morales, and you get a healthy Jason Bay in there. that's a lot more.
Well, last year at home, they averaged just a little over 3.1 runs per game.
All right. All right. Nice pick by Paulie. Rack him up. 2 down.
In head-to-head over the last 3 years, we have dominated the Mariners. Padres have crushed the Pirates. Phillies, no contest over the Rockies. The Diamondbacks beating the Astros, but everybody beats the Astros, as does the Braves. And this year, the Astros moving into the American League West. Things are not going to get any easier for them.
Kyle Seager. I know that Big Sox fan down in Phoenix now. Jimmy Olsen is beside himself.
We'll tell him there's a long way to go in this one.
A bunch of, kidding me? We got 15 outs. That's high into center field. We are halfway home, and we got a problem. We trail it 6-1.
Creating contemporary solutions for a better banking experience for everyone. Fifth Third Bank, the curious bank. Member FDIC.
All right, boys, it's time to go to work. We trail it 6-1. A big 5 spot in the top of the 5th. Alexei, Flowers, and Beckham will face the 6-7 right-hander. Evans accounted 1. And tomorrow, Dylan Axelrod against Felix Hernandez. So make your plans to be with us here at the ballpark. If you can't, that game will be over Comcast Sportsnet Plus. And the finale on Sunday. Chris Sale against Iwakuma. And that game will be over WGN.
Iwakuma, a pretty good pitcher. He threw very well the first time out. It's pretty impressive last year. They're very high on him in Seattle.
And good swing by Alexei. But it evens a count at 2. Alexei hit the ball pretty hard into center field. Takes that breaking ball. So a full count.
This is the closest Bevan has gotten to walking anybody with Tyler Flowers in the on-deck circle.
He'll get me over breaking ball. Can't get him. So we'll see how he wants to score that one.
I think it was the hat that affected the arm of Ryan here. Goes in the hole, but he's going away from the play and doesn't have that much on it. Ramirez beats it out. So the third hit, all singles against Bevan.
Here's Tyler.
There's an interesting look.
Tyler struck out his first trip.
Not like the Kansas City bullpen, this Seattle bullpen, one of the strengths of the ball club.
Well, it's taken them a little while, but all the clubs now know that it's become a battle of bullpens. It's just that simple. That's the name of the game. It used to be you're going to go as far as your starters took you. Now you're going to go as far as your bullpen will take you.
And most of the time, those guys coming out of the pen, each guy throws harder than the next guy.
You can have 5 really good starters. If you get a bad bullpen, you're not going to win.
Because nobody completes games anymore,
No.
or very few.
You got James Shields, you got Verlander, will complete a few, but Shields, outside of that, you don't have a whole bunch. No balls, 2 strikes to Tyler.
Pretty low pitch count for Bevan, who throws a whole lot of strikes. He's not overpowering. He does move the ball around well. And he changes speeds even off his slow stuff.
Yeah, He changed the speed. That breaking ball, when he took something off it, that's been his big pitch tonight. One and two.
Outfield very deep all the way around.
Got a final from St. Pete. Tampa Bay shuts out Cleveland 4-0. Moore over McAllister. That ball hit hard. Fair ball. So it's going to be a ground rule double.
Yeah, Lexi going to have to go back to third base, but Tyler waited nicely on that slow breaking ball. And he had seen enough of them where he was not out in front of it. This one down and in. He keeps it fair, hits it awfully hard. That's been a recurring theme this year for Tyler Flowers. One hop out of the ballpark, and a very promising start to the Sox half of the fifth inning.
And now Gordon's got a job to do. Gordon grounded out to Seager at third. He's got to get one in and one over.
Lyric Wedge is going to concede the run. They're back in the middle.
Gordon trying to take it that way.
You can see the defense. Seager is even with the bag at third. Morales trying to stay loose at first. And the double play combination will concede the run for the out.
And trying to go that way again.
Our ball club, and it's very early yet, but out of the bottom three in the batting order, tremendous production early.
Nice catch by one of the fans. Now 35-degree weather.
And another good effort by Gordon to stay alive on that slow breaking ball out of the zone.
Got to lay off that high fastball in this sequence. That ball hit hard. Bag up Tyler. He will, but he's not going anywhere. And a good job by Gutierrez hitting the cutoff man, but Alexei scores, and it's a 6-2 ball game. While we have a moment, a reminder, Saturday, April 6th, come see our Sox take on these Mariners. That's tomorrow. First 20,000 fans receive a 1983 White Sox knit bomber hat, and all fans in attendance receive a 2013 White Sox calendar. So purchase your tickets right now by visiting whitesox.com. Here's Diaza. He's 0 for 2. He was robbed of the base hit on a beautiful play by Seager on what you would consider to be almost a perfect bunt.
And that ball trickled out on the grass. I didn't think there's any way that Seager was going to be able to get him, but he got him by a half step. A good call by Jeff Nelson. I think Alejandro was surprised that anybody got him also.
Two and 0 the count. Good at bat by Beckham right there.
Battled, stayed alive on a pitch out of the zone, and finally got one to drive home his first run of the year.
2-1.
Gordon off to a terrific start.
Five for 10. Tried to double him up. And the count 3-1.
Kerwin Danley is bundled up out at second base.
Full count to Diaz.
It's up to 39 degrees, so it is steadily getting warmer on the field. That's Lance Barksdale. Probably they don't feel the warm-up all that much.
That ball hit high and deep. Saunders back at the wall, jumps. You can put it on the board. Yes. Yes. 2-run homer. And it's a 6-4 ball game.
Went inside once too often and then at bat. And Diaza hits his first of the year. He's now driven in 3. Bevan had that ball drift over the inner portion of the plate. And Diaza with just enough to get it over the head of the leaping Saunders makes it a 2-run game.
And that's the way to do it. They score 5. You come right back with a quick 3. And there's a breaking ball strike to Keppinger. Jeff is grounded to third. A little soft comeback back to the pitcher. Well, he's a little bit happier.
Well, the first time through, Bevan really had it his own way.
Another ground ball to third. Low throw. Nice pick by Kendrys Morales.
One thing's talking with Rick Riz, who's the broadcaster for the Seattle club, along with Dave Sims. They were saying they were surprised by the defense of Kendrys Morales. They said they knew that Smoke was a pretty good defender because they had seen him. Morales came over with a reputation of a good offensive player, but he's played very well defensively, and he made a good pick there.
Alex. He's 0 for 2, should be 1 for 2. Got a big swing on that one. Sort of jammed himself. And that ball ripped foul. Well, we just got right back in this Wago. 6-8-1 for them, 4-5-1 for us.
And Bevan now about to deliver pitch number 78. So where he sailed through the first 3. Didn't give up a hit till 2 outs in the 4th inning, and since then has been hit fairly hard.
Two and two.
This one becomes even a bigger game when you consider that Felix Hernandez is going to the mound tomorrow. They're number 1 against our number 5 on a day that should be very blustery. It's supposed to be wind gusts up to maybe 40 miles an hour. And Dillon is hoping it's blown in.
That ball hit high. Stay fair. Stay fair. It will. You can put it on the board. Yes, it's a 6-5 ball game. He rolled it, and he heard it.
That ball looked for a moment like it was going to hook, and then the wind just kept it right there down the line. The first home run of the year, the first run batted in. And that hanging breaking ball, second or third time through the order, doesn't work very well. Alex knew he got every bit of it. And that ball with plenty on it. So a visit to the mound.
Carl Willis.
Another guy who came over from the Cleveland Indians, who'd been with Eric Wedge. It's Carter Capps, a hard-throwing youngster. Got a fastball in the neighborhood of 100 miles an hour. And he's getting loosened up in a hurry. Again, this all happened pretty quickly.
Well, 2 home runs this inning, and of course 2 generous donations. Alex Snellius made the White Sox charities in loving memory of Ursula.
I think Jimmy Olsen's feeling a little better now.
Yeah, he just texted me. He's fine. Top half of this inning, I couldn't read you those texts. Adam, he's 1 for 2 with a stolen base that turned into a run. That was last inning if you just tuned in.
And at the time, after the Konerko base hit, it tied up the ball game at 1. But then some 5th inning fireworks from both teams. There's a look at the numbers on Bevan. Had a very easy 3rd, and then things started to get a little tougher. Evan caught a good piece of Montero. Vic Carapaz is going to come out, have a few words, find out if he's okay. Top of the mask.
Montero just 23 years old. Good. We got some good-looking young catchers. Salvador Perez, Montero, Tyler Flowers. He gets him, but a crooked number goes up on that board. They score 5 in the top half. We score 4 in the bottom half, and we trail it 6-5. Jason Bay, who started off that 5-run 5th inning, leads it off here in the top of the 6th inning. Matt Lindstrom. Bay struck out in the 2nd and doubled, leading off last inning. There's a strike at 94. So 1-1 to count to the 34-year-old veteran. I know when Bay was in that Boston uniform, saw him play quite a bit. He's got a terrific top hand when he's healthy. And by top hand, I mean the right hand on that bat. It's very strong and very quick. But not on that one, even though it was only 88.
Well, he cut that ball after a steady diet of fastballs. Lindstrom had a tremendous arm. It's still very good. And you see this ball just cutting away at the last minute. Hitter's eyes like a computer. They measure the sweet spot where the hand should be, and when you cut that ball away, it just disappears.
Yeah, that late movement.
You can do that. You can pitch anywhere.
Hitters hate guys. Now, not that that was late movement on that cutter right there, because it's only 88, but fastballs, they hate to face guys with fastballs with that late movement.
Well, usually it takes a very lively arm, a young arm mostly, to get that late either sink or sail or run.
Release, yeah.
Because it comes with the wrist pop.
Well, fortunately, there are not that many of them around. That ball hit hard. Look at the play by Alexei. Made it look easy. Piece of cake. Beautiful play by Alexei. 2 down.
That is the kind of defense we are used to seeing from all of last year, which has not been in evidence this year. Good solid effort on a hard hit ball. Plants, has some time. Doesn't even have to gun it across.
Yeah, that ball was scalded. Here's Ryan, had a little infield single and then a little broken bat flare. It did not get to the outfield grass in the air. Meanwhile, it was a hit, an RBI.
I do believe that the Seattle bullpen is going to make their first appearance at this ball game. Both pens busy at the moment. It's Donnie Veal and Jesse Crane getting loose in our pen. You saw Bobby Thigpen down there. That's a man that knows a few things about the bullpen.
Breaking ball and the count 1-2. Well, Thiggy, 57 saves for a long time was the record. And a lot of those saves went out there. Didn't have a whole bunch, but he had stones that big. Hit him on the fist. Good job by Lindstrom. Made some nice pitches. 1-2-3 inning. We go to the bottom of the 6th, trailing by 1. Last year at home here, the Sox were 9 games over 500 at 45-36. Now, they won 5 of 6 versus the Mariners here at US Cellular Field and dominated the American League West at home 12-3 in Xfinity. From Comcast gives you a front row seat to all your favorite sports. Xfinity, your home for the most live sports.
There's a look at Carter Capps, hard throwing right-hander. He appeared in 1 game at Oakland. The question with the youngster is, can he, 1, get the ball over the plate consistently, and 2, can he throw anything off speed? Last year in Double-A at Jackson, ERA of 1.26 in 38 games. He saved 19, so he was their closer. Did make a brief appearance in Seattle in 18 games as a setup man. He fanned 28 men in 25 innings. So when you can throw nearly 100 miles an hour, that's going to help you out if you can keep it in the zone.
And he was a catcher in high school.
And a big one at that.
Yeah. So here's Paulie. Mariners lead it 6-5. Paulie 1 for 2. A big 2-out RBI single in the 4th inning. Looking for it, and he hit him on the 5th at 94. So 1 pitch, 1 out. And you can organize a group outing of 20 or more for a Sox game during the 2013 season and receive savings off the individual game ticket price. Enhance your outing by upgrading to our new Miller Lite Bullpen Party Porch, pregame patio party, diamond suite, or one of our other great party areas. Call 312-674-1000 and visit whitesox.com. Of course, that's the area of the Bertucci boys, Bobby, Bruno, and Handsome Anthony.
Saw Bobby before the game today. He was all decked out in his 83 gear. He apparently has a corner on the market for 83 gear.
I'll tell you what, that is really becoming a fad, that 83. As Tank can't get it.
We were told before the game that the merchandising of that particular units, hats, jerseys are selling very well.
BP jerseys.
And they're very good looking. There you take a look. You can see some very good looking tops from an excellent baseball team that just missed getting there.
Winning ugly. Started off 14-26. Wound up winning 99 games.
They did it with spectacular pitching. Some pretty good hitting, but spectacular pitching.
And just an unbelievable chemistry. That's foul back. Yeah, Capps, as I mentioned, a catcher in high school, then went to Mount Olive College, Division II. That's where he made the transition to the mound. Went 24-1 in 2 years there. That one at 95. 2 down.
Not only the velocity, but Capps has a very deceptive motion. He's throwing from just above sidearm. I guess you would call it low 3/4. But he throws across his body. And that's probably a very unconventional style because he was a converted pitcher. As you can see, not quite a side wheeler, but pretty close. And you're not going to hit the fastball up and out of the strike zone.
Here's Alexi. Checks it up, takes strike one, made a good pitch on it. Alexi started off that 4-run 5th with an infield single. Well, you just got to spot him the breaking ball. That's it. If he gets 3 over, grab some bench. unless he hangs it, of course.
For 1 for a strike, 1 out of the zone.
Carter, 6'5", 220 pounds.
He's 22 years old. Won't turn 23 until August the 7th. A little strange to look down and see the date of birth, 90. 1990.
One and two. One way to be a good fastball hitter. That's, you got to look for it.
I was going to say, you better be looking for it and speed it up. That one just barely missed. Take a look at it, and I'll say just barely missed. Just barely missed by Vic.
Well, this is the second series we've had a good crew.
Well, you don't see the hitters complaining. You don't see the guys on the base paths complaining, and that's a sign of a well umpired game, well umpired series.
Yeah, that crew we had for the Royals, now this one here. Good crew. And there's a good at bat by Alexi. A real good at bat.
Well, he waited for the slider that time and didn't try to overswing, didn't go out to get it, just stayed right with it and took it into right field. So the man who usually is off slowly, getting off to a very hot start in very cold weather. Here's a slider, but this one stays up. And Ramirez just guides it into right field. A couple of Cuban-born players talking it over at first base.
Here's Tyler. He's 1 for 2, a double last inning. He just hit a bullet for a ground rule double, 1 hop. Good take. 1-0.
One of the reasons why Caps varies his timing on holding the baseball is that he has a very long, slow delivery. It's going to be pretty difficult for Montero, especially on a slider, to throw out a good base stealer with Caps on the mound.
That one at 94. But there's a difference. His 94 looks like it's about 97 or 98.
Well, it almost appears, because of his arm level, like the ball is rising as it gets to you.
Decent lead by Alexi. Light him up right here, Tyler. Beckham, who had a real good at bat last inning, on deck. There he goes.
Even if he handles that ball cleanly, there is no chance to get him. And I can see the advanced scouts right now around, if they're still sitting outside, saying that's one of the things they're going to give you with Capps on the mound is a stolen base. So that's the second one of the night.
Now pick him up. Adam Dunn stole. Rios.
Third one of the night.
Ouch. That just nasty pitch right there.
Well, if you give any ground because of that delivery,
That's
you're not
right.
going to be able to catch up to the ball on the outside corner.
Right.
And that ball had the corner.
Yeah, it did. Two.
Well, the inside move to second by Capps, which was a good idea, but nobody was covering second. So there was no place to go with it.
Yes, he did, they say, and that'll retire the side. Win of the seventh, trailing by 1. Family Sundays presented by the University of Chicago Medicine Comer Children's Hospital. Tickets start as low as $5 and parking just $10. Kids' activities include pregame player autographs and running the bases postgame. The White Sox and Comer Children's Hospital teaming up to promote a healthy lifestyle and combat childhood obesity. First pitch strike. Gutierrez, a homer leading off the ball game, a strikeout and a 2-run double. Has 2 homers and 6 RBIs.
Looked like he went around on that. Go to break. Jeff Nelson didn't see it that way. And the count evens at 1. Took a look from the side. Yes, indeed, he did go around.
2-1. Nice.
Good hard breaking ball that had some tilt to it. It went down, didn't stay on the same plane, didn't slide across. So a little different than the cutter.
He gone.
Nobody around going to hit that pitch. Late, quick, diving, breaking ball. And that is going to be it for Matt Lindstrom, who did a very good job in relief of Jose Quintana.
It was awesome. Awesome. Throwing the ball well. So he'll depart, and we'll be back.
Setting and is provided by 97.5 FM ESPN Deportes, Chicago's first and only FM Spanish language sports radio station. They've got a new pitcher. Donnie Veal comes into the game. He's thrown a third of an inning. He's become our left-handed specialist, and he's brought on to face Saunders and possibly Morales, pending the outcome of this at-bat.
Saunders 1 for 2, that RBI triple and a run scored. Count evens at 1 to the 26-year-old outfielder. Just tuning in, Mariners 1 in the first. We tied it 2-out RBI single by Canerco in the fourth. Then they scored 5 in the fifth, and we came right back in the bottom half with 4.
Lucas Lutke and Stephen Pryor throwing in the pen.
No walks. 3-1. So here's Morales. to pop up to second, a strikeout, and an RBI single.
Morales did not run very well before the ankle surgery, and now he doesn't run well at all. So ground ball is going to get 2.
First pitch strike. Yes, rack him up. Steve, on point, on cue. 7th inning stretch. We trail it by 1. Six runs, 8 hits, 1 error for their guys. 5 runs, 7 hits, and 1 error for our guys. We're in the bottom of the 7th inning. Southpaw. As Gordon Beckham will lead it off. Gordon 0 for 1 with a good at bat and that sacrifice fly back in the 5th.
This Seattle outfield doesn't shift very much at all.
And there's a good way to start it. Jumped all over that 95-mile-an-hour fastball.
Last time up in the 5th inning, Alejandro Diaza took one out of the ballpark. It's our 4th drive of the game. 2-run homer to make it 6-4 at the time. His first of the year. He's driven in 3. And it would appear that that is going to be it for Carter Capps. So Capps departs. It looks like Lutke coming in, and we'll be back after these messages. in at Oakland. He pitched an inning, gave up a couple of hits, a couple of runs. Walk one, didn't fan anybody. Last year, 63 outings. He was a specialist. He only threw a total of 40 2/3 innings, ERA just under 4. And the Sox thought enough of him to draft him twice. Once out of high school in the 31st round, and then he went to San Jacinto Junior College. They drafted him again in the 16th round. Decided to stay in school, and here he is with the Mariners.
26-year-old southpaw, 6'4", 205, out of Brenham, Texas. So the leadoff man aboard, Beckham at first, and here is Diaz. Big 2-run homer in the 5th.
I think Lutke's on for just one hitter, and that's Diaz. The bullpen still up and going, and with 2 right-handers coming up next in Keppinger and Rios, I would think that Eric Wedge would want just one out from Lutke.
Oh and 1. Gap out there in right center if he can find it. Keppinger on deck. Yes, he did, says Vic Carapazza. And the count 0-2. All right, Alejandro, now you got to bow your neck.
Good job that time of staying alive.
Gordon, decent lead. And there's the base hit. Gordon will pull up. So the first 2 men aboard.
That was some excellent defensive hitting by Diaz, who shortened his stroke. Knowing that Lutke was ahead 0-2, he protected on the 3rd pitch, and on the 4th pitch, he got one out over the plate. And that is going to be it for Lutke.
Yeah, that 3rd pitch was the key to that at bat.
Tough pitch to stay alive.
Yep.
Stay alive he did, and it turned into gold. We've got a pitching change, and we'll tell you about it when we come back. third of an inning in the 4-game series against Oakland. Big right-hander, 6'4", 250 out of Donaldson, Tennessee. Last year with Seattle, 3-1. ERA just under 4 in 26 appearances. Made the jump from AA to AAA and AAA to the major leagues. And he inherits some trouble. Runners at first and second, nobody out. And these are the type of situations that Rick Hahn got Jeff Keppinger for, to put the bat on the ball.
If I'm not mistaken, Pryor made his major league debut against us.
Threw the ball pretty well.
And he threw the ball very well. So here we go. 2 on, nobody out. Corners in close. Outfield straight up and spread out. Steve told you they don't move around a whole bunch. And here's Keppinger. Rios on deck.
Pryor threw very hard.
And let's check it out. Our new this season on WGN is our run expectancy chart. Last season in situations like this, there are the numbers. Percentage. And he made a good pitch on him. Count evens at 1.
Pryor last year with 27 strikeouts in 23 innings, but he walked 13. So if you're patient, he's got problems throwing it in the zone.
Good eye right there.
Squared to butt, followed that breaking ball straight down and out of the strike zone. Brendan Ryan is trying to do the best he can to make sure that Beckham does not get that extra step.
Count evens at 2. That one at 97. A lot of times it's a lot easier to hit hard tours like this than it is to bunt hard tours.
It's tough for a guy that's not used to bunting the ball too often to bunt at any time.
That one at 96.
A nice job of staying alive on a ball that sailed up and in. Diaz has got a job to do on a ground ball in the infield. That's why he has to get a good secondary lead, because on anything hit, if it's in the infield, he's got to get a piece of the pivot man and break up 2.
Slowly hit. That's going to get the job done. So ducks on the pond, 1 out. That'll bring up Rios.
Keppinger does indeed make contact. That could turn out to be a very important contact situation.
Better believe it. Well, that's the reason he's in the 2-hole. That's the reason they acquired him. That pitch that you mentioned, he fought off. That ball just was almost chasing him down. He still got a piece of it.
Well, Eric Wedge has motioned to the infield. They're not going to play in. Even with a 1-run lead, the tying and go-ahead run on the bases, the middle infield is back.
And here's Alex 1 for 3 with a homer. Takes ball 1.
That was the 5th run of the ball game. A blast against Blake Bevan. Bevan faced one more hitter and then was removed from the game. He went 5, gave up 5 runs on 6 hits.
Two and 0 the count. Come on, Alex. Right man, right place, right time, right now. Pulled a string on him on 2 and 0.
Breaking ball right down the middle.
Another one, got it up. Good pitch to hit. Couldn't do anything with it.
He got away with a hanging slider, and Alex, with a frustrated look on his face, knew he got his fly ball pitch.
That one at 97, foul back. Boy, these bullpens, for the most part, just keep getting bigger and bigger, with the exception of Kansas City.
But they throw harder and harder.
Yeah. Off the end of the bat, that'll get this game tied up. So a 6-6 ball game. Diaz at third.
Little contact needed by Alex Rios, and contact it was. Drives in his second run of the game, and it's a brand new game. So against the strikeout pitcher, Alex gets the ground ball with the infield back, and it's up to the big man to try to untie it.
So Gordon Beckham started this inning off. It's a hard throwing Caps. Scores, and here is Adam. Takes ball 1. Adam went out to left in the first inning. Then in the fourth inning he singled, and on the first pitch stole second base. Came around to score on a 2-out single by Canerco. That's high, 2-0. Three and nothing.
We told you about the control issues that Pryor has shown in the past. Jesse Crane getting ready to go in the pen.
Made a good pitch on him. He was hitting.
96 on the outside corner. How much you're going to do with that?
No. Good job just to go ahead and take it. That ball hit hard. Get over his head. What a catch right there by Michael Saunders on a bullet. Humpback line drive. Man. But Sox tied up. Will go to the 8th. 6-6.
He hits a rocket to right field. Looked for a moment like it had a good chance to get over Michael Saunders' head, but nope. He just puts it away. Find out what's possible with products and services from AT&T. Rethink possible. Jesse Crain comes into the brand new ball game tied at 6. Third of an inning, 1 hit, 1 strikeout.
And here's Michael Morse. Takes up high, ball 1. He is 1 for 3, a single. That ball was absolutely scalded by Dunner. Here's a strike. Outfield straight up for Morse. Oh yeah, there's the old hook.
Well, what helps that hook at 72 is that fastball is back up to 93. So Jesse's got the velocity back, and with it, that good downer straight over the top curveball.
Pops him up, right side. Can of corn for Alex, 1 out. And you can join our Sox for Weather Day presented by WGN-TV on April 24th at USA Left Field. Prior to the game versus the Indians, WGN-TV meteorologist Tom Skilling will host a special program focused on what else but the weather. So go to whitesox.com/WGN for more details. Here's Montero, takes first pitch strike. Jesus 0 for 3. And the count very quickly, 0-2.
Montero came over from the New York Yankees, and at the time what the Yankees thought was a pretty good deal. They had some excess catching, and they wanted Michael Pineda. Since going over there, he hasn't taken the mound too often. Got hurt, and he stayed hurt. And what a promising young pitcher he was. Matt Thornton getting loose in the pen. Bullpen's been pretty tough tonight. Matt Lindstrom, 2 1/3 innings. He was something special. Donnie Veal, 2/3 of an inning, and now Jesse Crain.
That ball deep in the center field. We got a man there. Two out. So here's Kyle Seager, the third baseman. He is grounded to second, walked, and gone out to center.
Seager showed some pretty good power last year.
Drops the hook on him. 20 homers, and one of them against us, a 3-run shot. It was a bomb.
In a tough ballpark to hit the ball out of. It's still going to be tough in right and right center, but it's going to be in a bit in center and certainly left and left center.
Just getting home, tuning in. Mariners took the lead with 1 in the first. We tied at 1 in the fourth. They scored 5 in the top of the fifth to make it 6-1. Our guys came right back with 4 to make it 6-5. Tied it with 1 in the seventh. Three and 1 to count. Curved ball. Grabs the strike. So a full count with 2 down.
No hitter going to be looking for this on 3-1. Not representing the go-ahead run late in the game, but he drops a hook right there. Good pitch in a tough spot.
Once again, the payoff. He gone. Change up. 1, 2, 3 inning for Jesse. And we'll go to the bottom of the 8th. Tied at 6.
Batted around in the 5th inning, eventually chasing Quintana, excuse me. And the White Sox, their 7th, 8th, and 9th hitters have done it all year, and tonight no exception. 4 for 8, 3 runs, and a run batted in. So the game tied at 6. Your Chicagoland and Northwest Indiana Honda dealers, as reliable as the car themselves.
7th, 8th, and 9th, 4 for 8 tonight. 2 runs scored, 1 knocked in. And here's Konerko to lead us off here in the bottom of the 8th.
Well, the last 3 in the batting order, Ramirez, Flowers, and Beckham, came into the game tonight hitting 300, 571, and 556 respectively. Paulie felt that one might have hooked around the plate as Nate Jones starts to get loose in the pen. Fastball away, Paulie.
That one at 95. And Jess did get a piece of that 97-mile-an-hour fastball. Only 2 other games in action. Top of the 4th, Dodger Stadium, 1-0 Dodgers over Pittsburgh. Bottom of the 7th, Houston, 8-1 Oakland. There's a shot. Right to Seegers will hang with them, 1 out. And you can experience White Sox baseball year-round by scheduling Southpaw for your birthday party, wedding, holiday party, festival, or block party. Southpaw is available 365 days a year. So to have Southpaw visit your next event, call 312-674-1000 and visit whitesox.com/Southpaw.
Oh, that one got Vic Carapazza pretty well. Montero's asking him if he's okay. Jesus, you got the gear on. You backhand, you move away, the umpire is going to get it. And he got it. Probably asking him, Vic's asking him to stay in front of those.
He's asking him, what are you doing? That's down to Seager. He can pick it down there. The Tank now 0 for 4, 2 out. That'll bring up Alexei. Alexei's had 3 good at bats tonight, coming up with a couple of hits and a run scored. He started off that 4-run 5th with a good at bat, infield single.
I would say this entire outfield on a hitter by hitter basis sees Gutierrez shift maybe 20 feet for every hitter, and that's about it.
That's out of play, and very quickly the count 0-2. Kansas City outfield,
they shift a lot.
They move around.
They do. This one, not so much.
And that's another souvenir right side. 15,312 brave souls in attendance tonight. 33 degrees as we speak. And they have been into this game even when we were down 6-1. They got a little upset when they scored 5 in the 5th, but they came right back at them, bottom of the 5th.
Put up the 4 spot and a run last inning.
Oh, he got away with a hanger. Meanwhile, a 1-2-3 inning. We'll go to the 9th, tied.
We head into the top of the 9th inning. Nate has been on for no innings, but he has walked the one man he's faced. Can't afford that with 6, 7, 8 due up here in the 9th. Then if anybody gets on, it's Gutierrez in the top spot. So you're taking a look at Dwayne Wise, who comes into the game. He's playing center field. That shifts Diaza over to left.
Here's Jason Bay. It'll be Bay, Ackley, and Ryan. Bay started off at 5-run 5th with a bullet double in the left field.
Nate throws from the extreme first base side of the pitcher's rubber. That first fastball he threw to Jason Bay had great movement on it. He prefers that setup probably to get a better angle on that slider away from the right-handers.
The 0-2 pitch. He gone. One down. And you can follow our White Sox with MLB.com at bat for your iPhone, iPad, or Android. Get spring training scores, stats, highlights, live audio, and more. Text at bat to 31826 or visit WhiteSox.com. Ackley takes ball 1. Dustin is 0 for 3. A couple of ground outs to short. Then he reached on an error. Change up.
Ackley had some problems running last year and normally has pretty good speed. But he had an ankle problem surgically taken care of right after the season ended, and says that the ankle's pretty good right now.
Oh yeah, that one at 97. Slider. 2 balls, 2 strikes. And a reminder, tomorrow, 12 o'clock start. Dylan Axelrod against Felix Hernandez. Make your plans to be with us. If you can't, that game will be over Comcast Sportsnet Plus. He gone. Slider.
Threw him a fastball on the outside corner, missed with a slider inside, and then went right back there again. And this time he got him. That went a perfect pitch in a big spot.
So here's Ryan. Infield single and then a broken bat single that hit in the infield.
His job is to get on base, and you have to take away the bunt. Keppinger even with the bag at third, coming in with the pitch. Tom Wilhelmsen and Cameron Lowe. Lowe a sinker baller. Wilhelmsen will come in the game if the Mariners score. He's their closer. Lowe will come in if they don't score.
There's the strike.
Wilhelmsen, a big right-hander with a great over-the-top curveball.
Lowe, even a bigger right-hander.
Without the curveball.
Yeah. There's a Matabatacola. And a beautiful inning for Nate Jones will go to the bottom of the ninth, tied at 6.
Wilhelmsen. It's Cameron Lowe. Big right-hander with a sinker. 3 innings, 4 hits, 2 earned runs, 1 strikeout. He's going to face the bottom 2 before returning to the top with Diaz.
Lowe, 6'8". As he concludes his warm-up tosses. And Tyler Flowers to lead it off. Tyler, 1 for 3, a double.
Tyler likes the ball down, and more than likely that's where Lowe will get it.
Six runs, 8 hits, 1 error for their guys. 6 runs, 9 hits, 1 error for our guys. They have 1 home run. We have 2. Gutierrez led off the ball game for them with an opposite field home run right down the right field line. High fly ball. And Diaz hit a 2-run homer in the 5th. And Rios hit a solo shot in the 5th. As that pitch taken inside. Beckham on deck. Diaz in the hole.
That's that sinker that Lowe has employed since coming into the major leagues. Charlie Furbush, left-hander, getting loosened up in the pen. You might remember him with the Tigers.
One hopper and 1 out. So here's Gordon. 1 for 2, a sacrifice fly, a single, and a run scored. That tied the ball game in the 7th inning. That's high into right center field. Quickly, 2 gone. So here's Diaz. And here's what he did back in the 5th.
Made it a 2-run game at the time. in a 4-run inning.
Jacks it up and takes strike one. Still at 33 degrees here at 10:19. Little tapper, the low with a very easy 1-2-3 inning, and we will go to extra innings. In this, our fourth game of the season. It'll be the top of the order for Seattle. Gutierrez, Saunders, and Morales to face Nate Jones. 1-2-3 inning in the ninth with a couple of strikeouts. Gutierrez 2 for 4, a homer and a 2-run double. Outfield straight up, Diaz in left, Wise in center, Rios in right. Fouls that pitch away. That one at 97.
Gutierrez might still be a Cleveland Indian if not for Grady Sizemore, because Sizemore was their center fielder. Gutierrez probably a better center fielder, and yet couldn't get any playing time and has moved on. Found a home in Seattle when he's healthy. They love him in their outfield.
Well, those injuries that he had, just unbelievable, really. Two and one.
Go, Nate. Go, baby. Go, Nate.
No walks. Come on, Nate. Come back and get him, buddy.
Go, Nate.
That's trouble.
He wasn't going to get him at first anyway, and the only thing that Lixie could do was try to barehand throw it in the same motion, but Gutierrez runs too well. Doesn't get much of this, but just enough. Normally Keppinger would have had a shot, but he was playing the line in a no double set. And that's a go-ahead run at first.
Here's Saunders. Couple of walks. He's 1 for 2 with a triple, knocking in a run. He also scored a run. Yeah, all those injuries to Gutierrez, we mentioned the internal problems. Severe oblique strain. That was in 2011. There's a bunt. That's a good one. So the sacrifice, 3-4. And the switch hitting, first baseman Kendrys Morales, who's 1 for 4 with an RBI. And Gutierrez started off this year in spring training with tightness of the legs.
If he can get in the lineup, he's usually a factor.
That's fair. Right down the line. So that little infield single is going to come around the score, and they take a 7-6 lead.
Morales with 2 driven in tonight, and his fastball down on the inner portion. The go-ahead run scores, and Morales is out at second.
So here's Morse. He's 1 for 4 with a single.
Pinch runner now for Morales. Andino comes on. Most likely it'll be Justin Smoke coming on to play first base defensively, as Robert Andino with good speed out at second.
For our guys in the bottom of the 10th, Morris can't get it. Keppinger, Rios, Dunn, Canerco. One and one to count. Fastball at 98. There's a good slider. 1-2 the count. And once again, a reminder, got an Axelrod against Felix Hernandez tomorrow. That's a 12 o'clock start. He did not go. So a quick turnaround.
There's a closer, Tom Wilhelmsen.
He gone. 2 down. So here's Montero. Twice he has gone out to center. He also has gone out to right, and he also has hit into a 6-4-3 double play. That little swinging, in essence, that little swinging bunt infield single. Sacrifice bunt. And Morales with the RBI double. Count evens.
Come on, Montero. Your socks look pretty, sweetie. Come on.
And there's a base hit. So Andino will score. And it's 8-6.
First run batted in of the year for Montero. First hit of the night. But a big one. Fastball. Inner third. And it's a 2-run deficit.
Kyle Seager. Got into second, walked. Went out to center and struck out. Good breaking ball. Eight, 11-1 for the Mariners. 6-9-1 for our Sox.
Dwayne Wise playing a fairly shallow center field for a guy with some pop.
Yeah, he's about as shallow as anybody you're going to see in this league most of the time. That ball hit into right center field. Nobody's going to get that. So they're going to wave Montero around. Here's the throw to the plate. And they got him. Beautiful peg. Good relay all the way around. And that'll retire the side. But they come up with a pair. We need 2 to tie here in the bottom of the 10th.
Gordon Beckham. This one saved a 3-run deficit. Montero, who can't run, tagged on the leg by Tyler Flowers, who hangs on, and they get it. It is Justin Smoke who comes in defensively. Tom Wilhelmsen will come on to try to nail it down. 1 inning, 1 walk, no strikeouts. Wilhelmsen, 2.50 ERA last year, 29 saves, 73 innings, 73 appearances, 79 in the 3rd innings, 87 strikeouts. But he's got to go through the top part of the order. Keppinger, Rios, Dunn.
Well, last year he came in here in this ballpark and absolutely overmatched us. And then we went out there, he couldn't get anybody out.
But when he's getting the curveball over the plate, he's very tough. If he's not, you can get to him.
Yeah, he's got good stuff. So Keppinger, Rios, Dunn, Canerco. Keppinger, 0 for 4 tonight. Takes first pitch strike. That one at 96. There's that hook. That is a Jim Dandy.
Especially when you're throwing 96 and that one at 78.
That's into right field. And that's out number 1.
Rios, big hook, baby. Rios, big hook.
So here is Alex. 1 for 4 homer and 2 RBIs. And the count 2-0.
Need a base runner.
Yes, we do. Got a couple of boppers coming up. 3-0 the count. There's one. And it is full. So 1 out, 3-2 the count. We mentioned Axelrod against Hernandez tomorrow on Sunday in the finale of this series and this homestand. Sale against Iwakuma. Chris. That's off his foot. And tomorrow's game will be on Comcast Sportsnet Plus. Sundays will be on WGN. Boy, cold anytime, but especially 33-degree weather. That thing is still barking. Ball 4 base right here. Ball 4 base hit. That's ball 4.
Good
at
check.
bat.
Looked like he was going after that at the last minute as it dropped out of the zone. He allows the tying run to come to the plate. And the winds are stiffening a touch.
Adam 1 for 4. A single, a stolen base, and a run scored back in the 4th inning. Looking for it, got it at 95 and fouls it back.
That fastball on the inner portion. Couldn't quite get enough of it. Hit the ball awfully hard last time. Would have been a game winner, but Saunders able to make the play in right field.
Count evens at 1. Now, 2 balls and a strike. Outfield here, straight up and spread out. Breaking ball misses. 3-1.
Justin Smoke playing behind Rios at first base and then moving straight back, but very little distance, of any, between him and the line. Can't allow anything to get by him.
High, stretch, dead gummit.
Earlier in the game, that's a home run. Now
he just missed it.
Towering fly ball. That fastball, almost a duplicate of the first pitch. And the big man just missed it. He knew when he left the batter's box that it wasn't going out of the park.
So here's Paulie. Paulie, that big 2-out RBI single in the 4th. Last time up, lined out to 3rd. He's 1 for 4. Takes it right there at 97. Alex will just mosey on into second base. And a 1-1 count with 2 down to Konerko. Seattle trying to go to 3-2. Sox, if it stays like this. 2-2. And that gets away.
Dwayne Wise, who came on defensively, is in the on-deck circle if Paulie can keep it alive. Not the recommended procedure for trying to stop a ball to your right. He backhanded it, never moved his body. And as a catcher, Montero is a work in progress.
3-1 to count. Now, zone him in, reel him in, and light him up. Right here, Paulie.
Well, that wind had knocked the ball down to right. He is going to take it out to left if he gets a fastball middle in.
That one at 95, so a full count.
That one good sink on it while he hit the top of the baseball. Outfield about as deep as you can be all the way around in a no double set.
Payoff pitch. And that's ball 4. So the tying run's aboard.
Paulie will be taken down for a pinch runner.
So Connor Gillespie comes out. And it's up to D. Wise. Come on, Wayne. Takes it high and wide.
Normally the outfielders wouldn't be this deep. There's plenty of room to drop the ball in front of them, but they can't let anything get by him, as Gillespie represents the tying run.
Just a short lead. And the count 2-0.
Lexi Ramirez in the on deck circle, and now Montero goes out to have a word with Wilhelmsen, who suddenly can't find a strike zone. Carl Willis comes out from the dugout. He's got a couple of words for his tall right-hander.
Couple of walks this inning. And a just missed home run by Adam Dunn.
Kerwin Danley is doing everything he can to make sure that those legs don't freeze on him out there, because he's going to have to go and run to the gap if a ball goes that way.
Two-0 pitch. Cracks his bat. 8 runs, 12 hits, 1 error for the Mariners. 6 runs, 9 hits, 1 error for our guys. Quintana pitched well up into that 5th inning when they scored 5 runs. Matt Lindstrom, 2 1/3, nothing. Couple of strikeouts. Great job by Matt. And there's a base hit. Connor will round second. He'll move into third as Rio scores, and we got ourselves an 8-7 ball game. D. Wise coming through.
Wayne coming in as a defensive replacement, gets a changeup up and out over the plate, drives it right by Smoke. Reason he was able to do that is Smoke had to play a no double set, so he was guarding the line, that ball going to his right. And now a big advantage for Ramirez, because you got a guy who, when he throws his curveball, a lot of them go in the dirt. You have a catcher who can't block the ball very well, so you got to go up there looking fastball.
And he's had 4 good at bats tonight. 1 time, 10. Takes ball one.
Come on, baby. Come on.
Now 32 degrees. Big hack.
Throws a fastball. It's up and out of the strike zone. But Alexei in swing mode fouls it back.
Big pitch right here, the 1-1.
That one missed by a wide margin. And that time Montero was able to pick it out of the dirt.
Three and one. Tyler
Good
Flowers
check.
on deck.
Question is here, do you run with Wise? I'm not thinking Montero would throw through.
He does not go. And a good rip by Alexei. Two out, two on. Down by one. A full count. And that's ball four. That'll load him up.
It's 3 walks in the inning. And Tyler Flowers with the winning run on second base. Both bullpens up and going.
Tyler's 1 for 4 tonight, a double. A hard double back in the 5th inning. Come on, big man. Curveball and gets a strike. Big pitch right there.
Was a good one. Caught the inside corner. There you see very good speed in the one place that's essential, and that's out at second base.
Backs it up with a fastball, and he is quickly in the big hole. 0-2. And this ball game is over. So the Mariners come in here, score 5 runs in the 5th. We came right back with 4. They get 2 in the 10th. We get 1 in the 10th. We kept coming back, but we lose at 8-7, and we'll be back.